to the podcast on US India Convergence of Interest in the Southeast Asian region. We are very happy to have with us Mr. Don McLain Gill, who is a Manila based geopolitical analyst, an author, and the director for South and Southeast Asia at the Philippine Middle East Studies Association. Welcome to Christ University, sir. We are very happy to have you.
Thank you very much, Grady. It's a true honor to be here.
Okay, sir, let me begin by asking the first question. Uh, how do you think the United States has perceived India's role in the Southeast Asian region, especially after the Cold War?
Right, and that's actually quite interesting. After the Cold War, we'd like to say, with the dissolution of the only structural thorn between the bilateral relationship, which was the Soviet Union, the US and India relationship began to prosper significantly immediately since the dawn of the 21st century. If we look into the role of India in the region, in fact, the US has been highly supportive, especially after 9/11. And this was when, of course, the US even looked at India as a security provider, where Indian naval ships actually escorted US ships across the Strait of Malacca. And when Hillary Clinton visited India in the early 2000s under the Obama administration, she in fact laid out the concept of India needing to do more than look east, but to also act east. So since then, we could definitely see from a general perspective that the US has been highly accommodating of India's larger role in Southeast Asia.
Thank you so much, sir. These were very interesting insights. So, this leads me to the second question. How does India play a role in Washington's desire that it plays in the Indo Pacific, especially through minilateralism?
Right, so we have to understand the rise of the Indo Pacific construct, of course, has been aligned with the perception of diverse interests in the region. And of course, the US's perception or the perceptions towards the US by regional states have been quite varied. And of course, there are concerns, especially amidst the US China power competition of choosing particular sides. Now, India has a significant role in this because, as we can see, India is a rising great power in Asia, in the Indo-Pacific. And it is a provider of public good. It is now increasingly serving as a responsible security and development provider in Southeast Asia. And of course, both India and the United States center on the perception of securing the established order, which we all call as the rules-based order. So there's definitely an alignment there. And of course, India being not just any small power in the region, but a rising great power in its own right, the US has come to acknowledge that the relationship they have is not only a very important relationship, but a relationship between two powers. And this in itself shows you the alignment and the great interest, despite some divergences in the relationship. The trajectory is still very much significant.
Definitely, sir. I think convergence is the key as of now for India and the US. So, sir, this leads me to my third question, where I would like to ask you what's your view or your take on the various engagements that India is having in the Southeast Asian region as of now?
Well, India, especially since 2014, has picked up a more proactive position in Southeast Asia to the point where Southeast Asian states are actually looking to India more favorably in terms of an alternative security and development partner. If we look into the State of Southeast Asia survey of 2023, which is very authoritative, India is in fact the second choice of Southeast Asian countries in terms of countries that could serve as an alternative to the US China power competition. First is Japan, second is India. India actually ranked better than countries like the UK or Australia. So that's telling in terms of public opinion. And in terms of defense, India has been bolstering its defense capacities to the point where countries like Indonesia, which were once quite wary of India's growing military capabilities, have in fact accepted an Indian submarine in their waters. And this shows the operational reach of the Indian Navy. Vietnam only signed for the first time a logistics pact with another country, and that was India. And having a vision statement beyond 5 years, that also shows the importance Vietnam attributes to India compared to other powers. The Philippines-India defense partnership is in fact reaching new heights since 2016 with the BrahMos missile and many others to come. And of course, Singapore being a traditional partner of India in Southeast Asia, we can see the trajectory improve as India continues to grow in material capabilities. It is now able to translate its material might into proactive diplomatic engagements, and it's paying off.
Thank you, sir. I think it will. We'll see soon. So finally, sir, how do you think India's growing position in the Southeast Asian region, like you just explained to us, will align with Washington's strategic interests as of now?
Well, there's a huge alignment because, on one hand, Washington is also wary that without the right partners, at a time where we are transitioning towards multipolarity, and it's important to have emerging powers with similar perceptions towards the order. So, on one hand, you have China, which seeks to, of course, rewrite the order to its own narrowly driven interests, and of course, have some sort of exclusionary policy in the region de facto. But then you have, on the other hand, India, a rising great power, which seeks to work within the established order. So that in itself shows the keen alignment between two states. Now, what else could be done is another question. I think that there's a lot of potential for the US and India to provide capacity building for partners in Southeast Asia, and of course to work with other countries like Japan or Australia in terms of not necessarily a quad format, but could be a trilateral or with a third country format. And of course, it's very important for them to really maintain consistency in this regard because Southeast Asian countries towards major powers have been wary of inconsistency. So I think now the opportunity is ripe, given the right structural factors, for them to not only cement the significance of the rules-based order, but at the same time pursue proactive engagements with Southeast Asian countries.
Thank you so much, sir. I think you very well outlined the future's prospects and the convergences that we have as of now. Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you. Always an honor, always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.